Tragically, most young men and women within 7 years of receiving the Sacrament of Confirmation, roughly 85% of them, are leaving the Catholic faith. Bishop Robert Barron, head of the Committee of Evangelization and Catechesis for the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, recently shared reasons why people between 18 and 39 years of age have chosen to leave the Catholic faith. It's based on 4 specific things. 1, they have a very difficult time in understanding or seeing the reality of God. 2, they really struggle with the compatibility of faith and science. They see them as something that contradicts rather than something that complements. Also, they ask very often, why does an all-loving God allow suffering in my life? And most importantly, especially today, when everything is seen through the lens of the human person, without an adequate anthropology, they struggle to understand why the church teaches what it does about human sexuality. Most of them leave between 18 and 39, but studies show that they make the intellectual decision to do that around the age of 13. So even though they're staying in the pew with you from 13 to the time that they're 18, they've already intellectually checked out on their Catholic faith. Wouldn't it be beautiful if they had the gifts of the Holy Spirit, specifically wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, working in their life at age 13, so they would be in a better disposition to receive the kind of information that we're trying to share with them? Wisdom helps us see things the way God sees them, not the way the world sees them. Understanding gives us the ability to process those difficult questions that they struggle with on both an emotional level and an intellectual level with the faith, and see it through the eyes of the deposit of faith rather than the eyes of the world. And knowledge, the most beautiful of these 3 gifts, helps them actually see God working in their life actively in real time. These are the kinds of things we need to be giving 13-year-olds so they can become the kind of adults in the faith that will become the future parents that are going to hand on the faith to our future generation of Catholics.
We're so excited about confirmation being moved from late high school to early to 8th grade. We are excited because our younger children will be able to receive that sacrament earlier, unlike our older kids who had to wait till the end of high school pretty much to be able to receive that, the grace.
Yeah, and just like right now, we have kids, young kids who have phones and have access to, you name it, pornography, just the music out there, just everything that is, this world is teaching Antichrist to these kids. So why not prepare our kids to be soldiers for Christ at a younger age, to be able to have the sacrament to where they could fight off what is so influential right now in their life today from this world.
The Lord said, let the children come to me and do not hinder them. And so we want to be able to allow these young children to be armed with the tools that they need to combat this culture that is really trying to lead them away from Christ. We want to be able to give them all the tools possible to be able to help aid them in growing in their relationship with Christ, because they truly are going to be the answer to this culture of death and this culture that is trying to steer them away from the things that are true and beautiful.
What the Catechism of the Catholic Church teaches is that, age, the biological maturity, has nothing to do with the spiritual maturity of our kids. So by getting receiving the grace in the Sacrament of Confirmation, it's allowing them to further spiritually mature themselves as they continue to grow in their faith. So why not do it earlier?
In the past, we've kept confirmation until 11th grade. And one of the reasons for this was that many pastors were worried that not having kids in catechism during the difficult years of high school would leave them prone to all kinds of temptations and negative influences. Confirmation is not something that we give because a child has converted. Confirmation is something we give that converts the child. And if we're sincerely worried about the temptations of teenage life in America today, then we want them to have the grace sooner rather than later. We look at the apostles themselves. These men were terrified even after the Lord rose from the dead. They hid themselves behind locked doors. They were not prepared for the coming of the Holy Spirit. They did not earn it. They did not deserve it. And yet when the Spirit fell, they burst out of doors and changed the world. They had courage, they had grace, they had wisdom, they had passion. And that's exactly what our children need to face this world today. We here at Our Lady of Lourdes have switched to 8th grade confirmation, and this year we're going to be doing confirmation for all grades 8th through 11th. And at first, I'm going to be honest, our parents were a little nervous, they were a little concerned, they didn't like the rocking of the boat, they thought that their kids were not prepared. Of course, it is our job to prepare the child as much as possible for confirmation. But on the other hand, there is no preparation for confirmation. There is nothing that you can do that will radically transform yourself so that the Holy Spirit becomes just icing on the cake. It is the Holy Spirit who gives you that preparation. It is the Holy Spirit who transforms you. I'd like to also say that sometimes people are concerned that if we do confirmation at 8th grade, this will get rid of high school ministry. I think that this is entirely wrong. That in fact, we're now able to minister to kids on a whole new level because they've received the gift of the Holy Spirit. No one says we should withhold Holy Communion so that we could continue to minister to kids into their adulthood. No, we recognize that the Eucharist prepares the ground for ministry and makes ministry fruitful. So it is with the gift of the Holy Spirit and confirmation. This is not something that's going to take away life ministry or youth ministry. It's something that is going to transform it. It's something that's going to transform our kids. And having been transformed, they will now be fitting recipients, eager participants in the life of the church.
I had one pastor growing up, Monsignor Richard Mouton, who instilled in me a desire to be a missionary disciple. Although the world in all its confusion crept in and kept me from living out my gifts. It wasn't until my junior year that I received the Sacrament of Confirmation, and I took my role seriously to become a protagonist in ministry. I decided then that I wanted to go door to door, sharing my faith with people that I would encounter. It was there that I met this woman who had been away from the church for about 8 years. After sharing faith with her and just loving her where she was, I had a profound experience. As I walked out of her house, she grabbed a hold of us and said, "You saved my life." Not too long after, she had passed away. It was then in that moment that I realized that the Sacrament of Confirmation prepared me to live out my gifts. Why wouldn't we want to have that experience of the Holy Spirit earlier on in life? Our ministry doesn't have to change. What does need to change is the continual desire to invest in people, that continual desire to accompany people on this faith journey. From the time that they receive the sacrament to the time that they're bearing children for the next generation. It is so important for us to be protagonists in ministry. The church has been talking now about being a missionary disciple. That is what a missionary disciple does, is sharing the faith.
Anyone can receive the Sacrament of Confirmation who's already baptized. In fact, in some parts of the church, confirmation takes place immediately after baptism. The gifts of the Holy Spirit, the gifts of the Sacrament of Confirmation, prepares them and strengthens them for the difficult years that they will be going through during high school, for the challenges that they will be facing.
Many sociological studies today show children at the age of 13 are vying and looking for a community. If they don't find a community first at home within their family, and then an extension of that in their parish church, they're going to find that community somewhere else. And what I see a lot of times are children that are presented first for baptism, then first reconciliation and first Holy Communion, and staying in CCD classes till about 5th grade, and then teetering out and not returning to their junior year of high school. The plan to move confirmation to 8th grade was to make sure we eliminated that gap and gave people who are on staff in parishes and parents an opportunity to be engaged in the formation of their child's life from the moment they present them in baptism to the moment that they are confirmed, and hopefully continues after that on a dual program that allows parents and their now newly confirmed children to continue to grow in their faith as intentional disciples for the Church Jesus Christ established, the Catholic Church. This is the reason why the Diocese of Lafayette and Bishop Deshotel made the decision he did to move confirmation from junior year to 8th grade.